So we're talking about your art as a side business and whether if that's something you've ever struggled with.
Right.
I know it's something that I have struggled with, that I continually struggle with, actually, because my art is still basically a side business. But what is a side business? Is it okay? Is that legit?
Right.
Are you like legit a business owner? Are you like legit a professional artist if it's still a side business? What is a side business versus a full-time business?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. So what would you say, Grace, constitutes a side business versus a full-time for people out there who are like, I don't know?
Well, really, I think the definition is changing in today's day and age. But in general, regardless of what the economy is doing this year or next year or last year or whenever you might be watching this, I think a side business versus a full-time business is it enough to fully support the lifestyle that you want to live?
Right.
However many dollars per hour or dollars per month that might constitute.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people probably think that if they can't work it full-time, if their only stream of income is their business, is their art, then they're finally a legit full-time artist. And if that's not the case, then it's just a side business. And does that make it less respectable?
That's a good point.
See, that's the main thing. Is it a legit side business? Well, yes, it's a legit side business, but what's your day job kind of thing? And I think in today's day and age, the definition of side business versus day job is changing,
right.
First of all. Mm-hmm. And the stigma that might have been attached to respectable day job versus artsy side business is changing as well. But in the overall scheme of things, I think whether it's full-time, part-time, side business, whether you make rent by doing something you don't enjoy, and then your art's the main thing that you really love, but you don't make as much money with it, that does not reduce the value of what you're doing. Yeah. I think that's the main thing that we need to talk about and a lot of people struggle with.
Right. Yeah, I think there's this concept, and we've both dealt with this, so if you're dealing with this too, join the boat, the club, whatever you want to call it. I think we devalue it when it doesn't provide that full-time income.
Yeah.
And so we all of a sudden pull back from it. I don't know if you find yourself doing it, but I'll find myself kind of, not giving as much effort or not giving as much time, or even saying, well, it doesn't really matter anyways, you know what I mean? And so I think that's a problem. And I think that's why we wrote this chapter in this book, right? Mm-hmm. Because we are artists and creatives, and what we do does matter for not only our own lives, for sure, right? Like you want to leave behind a legacy. Hopefully, if you're watching this, you want to leave behind a legacy of sorts. Yeah. But you also want to influence culture, right? You want to change the society you live in. I know I do. I want to say, hey, I left my art behind and it influenced people to start voting or to, recycle. I'm not writing songs about recycling, but I think art is
pursue their own dreams, whatever those might be.
Right. Yeah, I'm more like pursue your own dreams. If you're going through emotional problems, fix it, And so I really do believe that art is that catalyst that can change everything. Mm-hmm. But if we don't take it seriously because it's just a part-time thing, and where do you think we get that from? Like, what is that?
I don't know. It probably just has to do with our Western culture, I guess, or the traditions of the 20th century that we're still coming out of, and that even if you were born in the 21st century, you're still very influenced by the baby boomer generation, because they still define the way our culture has kind of done business. Now that's changing, of course, but I think, the idea of having a full-time job and this is what you do and you work 8 to 5 and this is what you do, and anything else you do is fun and extraneous and okay, but not as important as the main thing that you do to be the breadwinner for your family or yourself.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that, and if that's the way someone chooses to live and is able to live that way, more power to them. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But I think that's where maybe the stigma of a side business comes from.
Right.
And that's definitely changing, and not everybody thinks that way, but millennials and younger are starting to realize that, first of all, no matter the stigma or not, that system isn't working anymore.
Not for us. If it's working for you, send me an email.
Yes, if it is. I mean, more power to you if that's working. But anyway, But most people who have a dream to be a full-time artist or want to be able to have enough time and money to produce their art, whether they make a full-time income from it or not, whatever your goals might be with being an artist. But I think most people that we're kind of speaking to here probably are not sold out to the working 8 to 5 for the big corporation kind of idea.
Right. Because you still go home, and I've worked, well, not 8 to 5, let's not lie, but I've worked for corporations before.
Yeah, me too.
Where you put on your suit.
At 8, but yeah. Go to the office every day. I didn't show up at 8, but I got there. And not a morning person.
We're clearly creatives. I didn't get there on time, but I was there. Anyways.
I was up till 1 a.m. doing my art the night before, but anyway.
Right, that's real. But I was there, and you go home, and you still feel this hole because you know that you have like this almost like, it feels like divine assignment. You know what I mean? And you're just like, man, I know that this is not giving me what I need. There's more. There has to be more. That's like always a question in my mind. There's more. So I think we're changing the mold. I think that's what we have to look at and understand, that the mold is now, you see millionaires, right, who are entrepreneurs, they're doing 3, 4, 5 things, and that's incredible. And that is sustaining them, plus some, you know what I mean? They're millionaires. But we have to take that in, and even though some of our parents might have said, our grandparents, my grandma was always on it. She was like, you need to get a real job, you were crazy. And she wasn't here, she died before she could actually see the entrepreneurship working in my life. But we have to kind of like nix that mentality and realize that our art is valuable, even if it doesn't make $100,000 a year, or next person might say, I need to make 20,000, whatever, but it's still valuable. And it could do that, but if you're not giving it the value or placing value on it like it should be placed, then you're really shortcutting yourself and your art.
Yeah. And the value of having it as a side business, and like you were saying, if it's still part-time or on the side, might make you think it's less valuable, might make you put less time and effort into it, because you're working a day job to pay the rent, kind of thing. But the importance of having it, whether it's a side business or even just a well-paying hobby, or whatever definition might be, what's the difference between a side business versus a hobby that pays a little bit? Well, I don't know. Is there a difference? I'm not a tax expert. It might just depend on how you file your taxes based on the income, as to whether it's a side business or not. That's a different topic.
The government surely values your art when you're a sole proprietor and you do it on your own.
If you make money off your art, the government thinks it's valuable. But.
Yeah, they'll charge you twice in America, at least.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway,
that's
off topic. I think.
But yeah, so.
This is not this book is disclaimer. This book we're not offering any tax advice.
None at all.
None at all. None whatsoever. We are not tax experts, so consult your CPA. Disclaimer to go on one of the rules.
Yeah.
But anyway, the value of a side business, part-time business, doing it on the side, well-paying hobby, whatever you might want to call it, whatever society wants to call it at any given time, it is valuable. And what makes you a real artist is not how many hours you put in or how many dollars you make. Because that was something, again, I think, holdover from, being trained by the baby boomer generation. I'm definitely not a baby boomer. I'm not quite that old. But, just our culture being defined by the baby boomer generation, and a little bit of Generation X, older Generation X, still in that mindset, is, if it's not making you worthwhile livable income, then that devalues it. And that's totally not the case. That's really what we want to speak to, is that the value is not tied to money. And the value of having it as a side business, you make $10 a month on it, you make $100 a month on it, you make 25 cents on it, you make $300, whatever the dollar amount is, it doesn't matter. But the value of a side business is that, well, it gives you a chance to work on your art. It gives you a chance to develop your art. There's actually some good points of having your art as a side business while you're still doing the day job that you may not like to pay your bills, because it gives you a chance to work on your art.
Right.
To develop yourself to a level where you can start charging more. It gives you a chance to just start to practice, as it were.
Yeah, I heard somebody say once, they said, my art doesn't fund me, I fund my art.
Yeah.
And I thought that gave me perspective, I've always had this mentality, well, whatever I do has to fund the way I live or what I'm doing. But the reality is like, no, like, you're the one with the power to fund whatever you want to fund. And so if you want to fund an orphanage or your art, by all means, please do it. And it takes the pressure off your art so it can be authentic and real and influential in a different way, or however you'd like it to be, honestly.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool.
Can take some, like you said, take some of the financial pressure off. You're not trying to make a living so that if you have a bad month, you're not, suddenly worrying about being out on the street or something, because you've got other income because your art's still a side business, and that's okay, and that's a good thing. It gives you a chance to work on your art. It also gives you a chance to work on being a business owner. Honestly, learning because if you want to make money with your art, it's more than just having good art.
Right.
We all wish that if I just produce top-notch art, everybody will see the value and pay gobs of money for it. Unfortunately, it doesn't always work that way. And even if it does, even if people are willing to just throw gobs of money at you for your awesome art, you need to be able to manage that money. Because if you can't manage it, it's going to be gone very quickly. So
So what advice would you give somebody who is like, okay, I want to do art, but I'm really struggling with this concept of it's not my full-time gig? What would you say, like, in a few words?
I would say that, well, it has value. You have value. And if you do your art, you are an artist. If you make 10 cents off of it, if you make $100 off of it, if you make $0 off of it, if you do your art, you are an artist. You are a legit artist. You're a real artist. And that is the same value as someone who makes full-time income off their art. The value to yourself and the culture is the same.